We leave the frozen Northlands and move on to JRPG territory.
It's a dangerous territory for you, Rob.
Who is that supposed to be?
I don't know. Like, I was doing this thing.
Generic, wizened old man.
Yes, generic, wizened old man.
Wizened? Did I say wizened?
Wizened?
Oh no! You should cut that. I sound stupid.
Hello and welcome to episode of Random Encounter, the RPG fan podcast. I'm your host, Robert Steinman, Pale Robbie on the boards. I think we're on episode 35. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with. Joining me today, we have Steven Dark Souls Meyerink.
Oh, you said something really specific, so I couldn't say something funny like, I'm not a drug dealer, I'm a prostitute. I'm Taylor's on the boards.
Already off to a great start right now. You guys can just imagine what the pre-show warm-up was all about. We also have the master of many titles.
This is John McCarroll. I'm going to go with Vice Editor-in-Chief.
Vice Editor-in-Chief? That just sounds dirty.
Grand Viceroy.
Oh, no. All right. Kim, can you help us out here a little bit?
Yeah, Kimberly Wallace, Managing Editor, K-Star on the boards.
And then the man who hates Dark Souls.
I don't hate it. I just suck at it, apparently. I didn't know where I was going. I'm Derek Heemsbergen. I'm supposed to do news, but I don't, so instead I do soundtrack reviews.
All right. So I'm going to talk about some games today as we get ready for more big releases in November. Apparently there's some big RPG coming out, Sky something or other. So we'll talk about that.
Oblivion 2.
Oblivion 2. We'll talk about that next time. But for right now, we're going to finish up our Dark Souls discussion. It's awesome.
No, oh my God, make it short.
What?
I said, oh my God, make it short, and I was trying to make that as whiny as possible.
Oh, okay, in terms of Dark Souls. Yeah, Dark Souls is awesome, isn't it, Steven?
Yes, it is, and it's not short. That's
Overkill.
Well, no, we were talking, and Steven hadn't played it that much. I saw him playing a lot of Dead Island, and then apparently at some point this week, Dark Souls just took over his life. Every time I turn on my PS3, I see Steven's online, and he's playing Dark Souls.
I am. And I'm kicking ass with pyromancy.
All right, you guys spent an entire podcast on this.
John, you need
and an entire other podcast on this.
John, you need to play it.
So, John, how is War in the North?
Good. I enjoyed it.
Okay, keep going.
No, so Lord of the Rings War in the North, developed by Snowblind, which are the guys who created Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, Champions of Norath, Justice League Heroes, and all the games that ran on that engine. So even though they didn't develop it, Fallout, Brotherhood of Steel, which was awful, and all those other types of games. So essentially you are not Frodo, and you are not Aragorn, and you are not Legolas, and you are
a hobbit, a human, and a dwarf, and an elf.
Legolas.
An elf. You actually do not play as a hobbit at all.
Aww.
Oh, that's good.
Why they gotta discriminate?
Because they overuse hobbits. You play as a hobbit in everything that is Lord of the Rings related and is not this.
There are no hobbit stealth sections.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
It's just a good thing.
Yeah, I remember playing D&D with my buddies, and I always played as a halfling rogue, and I was, always kicking ass and having a good time until I got into combat, and then just one enemy would paste me right away. So maybe that's a good thing that there isn't a hobbit section. Okay, continue.
So you are you're fighting up in the north. So there was actually a nice
shocker.
Really?
Really?
For those of you who are not up and up on the Lord of the Rings lore, pretty much the entirety of the movies and the books take place in the southern part of this world. But this is not a one-front war. It's a two-front war. You have this guy named Agendour, who's a wizard that got taught by Sauron, He's a pretty generic enemy. I'll be 100% honest there. If you're looking to play this because you imagine that Snowblind has created an amazing story within Lord of the Rings canon, sorry.
Well, is this working outside of canon? It's been a long time since I read those books, but
So all the characters and the enemy that had, Agendour, they are brand new to this game.
Okay. So it isn't like there was a part that Tolkien just never told, like another trilogy that probably should have been made.
You're not looking at anything from the Silmarillion or any of those other books that came out of Tolkien's lore that his son had published from his work, from his notes and everything. There's none of that. This is built from the ground up by Snowblind.
Cool.
So I have a question. Does it play like? It didn't look like when you said hack and slash. Does it play more like the Two Towers and the Return of the King games, or is it more like the Loot Fest, like the dungeon hacks, like Champions of Noreth and all?
I would actually put it somewhere between those two. If you've played Hunted, which I was not a big fan of Hunted. No. Hunted, you get the combination of hack and slash and melee. Lord of the Rings: War in the North is not as Gears of War-esque as Hunted was. Okay. Hunted was pretty much, let's take Gears of War and let's put fantasy characters in it. It's okay. Let's go closer to, it's like a mixture between the old EA games and Snowblind's old games, but it also adds range combat. You can hold left trigger and it's like you're playing a first-person shooter when you're firing your arrows, and it's an interesting mix of all of these elements. It's got that Loot Fest stuff. It's got the combat that's more hack and slashy, more visceral, with that you would see in the old EA titles, and then it has a little bit of that range combat that a first-person shooter fan will be able to get into. And what's nice is if you want to play the entire game using the ranged combat because you're a fan of shooters, you can do that. If you want to play the entire game doing melee attacks and you barely want to shoot anyone at all, you can do that. It's got a very nice mixture. So there's going to be a little bit of something for everyone here. I think
it's 4-player co-op, right?
3-player co-op.
3-player co-op. Okay, so you have an orf. Oh my god.
An orf.
An orf, a dwarf, a human, and an elf, right?
Yes.
Okay.
A DORF. A dwarf.
DORF. You have Farron the Dwarf, who is actually I spent the great majority of my game playing as.
Okay.
So I mean, pretty much they are your three major classes. You've got a guy who is elf-like. Or the female elf is your wizard. The ranger is kind of your rogue style. He has some stealth abilities. He does more damage. And Farron is your tank. He wields shields and an axe.
So now building this game around multiplayer, does it have any kind of like... So building this game over multiplayer components, does it have like end game content? Does it have, New Game Plus or anything like that? Like, what keeps you coming back to play this time and time again?
Okay, so Rob, you and I have very different views on what a hack and slash game should be.
Yes,
I'm entirely happy playing through a game once and being done with a Loot Fest, and you can do that in Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, when you are done, it starts the game over and makes it more difficult, like Diablo.
Yay!
I will be 100% honest. I beat Lord of the Rings. I said, you know what? I've played this for 15 or 20 hours, and I did it over the course of 3 or 4 days to get this review done. I have no interest in playing it again right now.
Well, no, I think that's one thing that more and more games are doing. I mean, it's not an RPG, but like Arkham City has a New Game Plus built into it. Dark Souls can go on as much as you want, just like Demon Souls. And I'm just always interested to see, because Kim was talking in the pre-show warm-up about how it's always good to have that one like comfort food game, like a game that you really love and you can keep coming back to and keep playing it, and you don't have to start the whole thing over. It's like you kind of just pick up where you left off, and I'm always looking for that in games right now, and I'm always interested to see what they do in terms of end game content.
Yeah. So I've
been playing a really good game lately called Dark Souls. That's like that.
Oh, really? How is that game?
It's pretty good.
You know what? My favorite part of that game is.
I'm going to murder both of you. But you get this. So you start over. There are also challenge maps in the game where you can go in and you can, it's essentially waves after waves of enemies. If you want to level up, which the game was incredibly well balanced. I went through the story and I only got a game over screen once, and it was not because I died. It was because it was a defend the door sequence and I let the door get crushed. So it's really well balanced, and that's not to say that my character never fell, because there are always 3 characters going around. If one character gets hit to 0 health, he falls down on the ground, and there's a limited amount of time for one of the other characters to go and revive him.
Yeah, very shooter mechanic like.
Yeah.
Phobic revive?
And it worked really well. And this is actually one of the things that I want to compliment Lord of the Rings War in the North on. The AI is very intelligent. And
Really?
that's a huge shocker for most of these beat 'em up RPGs, because I'm used to my allies going over and fighting the wall, whereas my enemies were I could leave my allies to fight enemies over on one side of the screen, and I could fight the others, and I could be confident in their ability to stay alive and defeat their enemies. And
Wow.
That
That's
does
impressive.
not happen every day. Like I was playing a little bit of Dead Rising 2 the other day, and I had to shut it off when like my one escort mission character just ran into a pile of zombies and got eaten. I was like, really?
I was actually
I like
playing
how
Dead
you-
Rising 2 the other day as well.
Oh God,
like-
that's weird. Maybe we should play together, John.
You have it on PS3, I have it on 360.
Wow, way to just ruin my dreams.
Yeah, I know.
I like how you quantified the zombies as pile.
It was a pile of zombies.
If
No,
you
I will give War in the North credit because I was playing it before the podcast today and I died a couple of times, but the AI revived me like instantly. In so many games, if you die, you're kind of SOL because the AI doesn't really get to you fast enough for stuff. So
Well, how do
that's
they
actually really good.
how do they handle the AI when it comes to enemies? Because like Left 4 Dead, sometimes the AI would be way too smart when it came to enemies. Like it was almost a benefit to have an AI partner because they could shoot a hunter out of the sky and like with one shot.
What's nice is that the game is at its core an RPG. It's not like, oh, you headshot that orc, he's dead. You can headshot an orc with your weapon, or you can get a critical hit, but it's still not going to kill an enemy. You're never going to kill an enemy in one hit. Not even when you're at the end of the game and you're fighting Well, sometimes if you get a good critical, but even towards the end of the game, it'll take 2 hits to kill a goblin. It'll take a couple of hits to kill an orc. It'll take several hits to kill an Uruk-hai, and it'll take a couple of minutes to kill a troll.
Couple of minutes.
Not a couple of minutes, but you get the idea.
Just got whale on him a little bit.
Well, but what's nice is that you get a lot of hack and slash RPGs where it's like, okay, you have regular attacks and you have special abilities, and that's it. Lord of the Rings War in the North has what's called hero mode, where you beat on a guy with normal attacks for a certain amount of time. He gets this little crown above his head, and you hit your heavy attack button, and it will do some kind of critical strike that does more damage. That's only part of it, though. When you're in there, it starts a chain, like a combo chain, and the more you hit something, the more experience you get.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
if you get hit while you're in a combo chain, you'll lose that, and you'll have to do a critical again. But as long as you continue to beat up enemies after you've gotten one critical, you'll keep going. You get more crowns. You beat them up more. There were points where I was getting, it says 20x, 30x, 40x, 50x. That's not the actual modifier. But it was nice to get, 4 times or 5 times experience at the end of a chain.
Were you playing this on 360 or
I was
PS3?
I was playing it on 360.
Okay.
It is available on all 3 platforms. We actually had one of our readers on the boards mention that the PC keyboard controls were not that great. Does not surprise me. This really does seem like it's a game that was built from the ground up for consoles.
Well, as long as you can use like a PlayStation 3 controller or a PS3 or a PS3 controller or a PS3 controller. As long
Or
as
a
you can use a
PS3
controller
controller,
or a
perhaps.
PS3 controller. How is Dark Souls? If you can use some kind of controller, I guess that
You know
would
what?
mess
I'm
around with it.
absolutely sure that you can. I mean, Snowblind has been at its core a console developer in their history,
Yeah.
so it does not surprise me.
I actually kind of want to try this because I didn't know anything. I didn't even know it was an RPG. I just knew that we were covering it, and that for some reason I kept confusing it with the Battle for Middle Earth games, and I thought it was like a new one of those. But they're those their old hack and slash games were a lot of fun. I played Champions of Norath like crazy.
Yeah.
Did they this is kind of a loot question. I guess one of the things that really turned me off to Dead Island was when I was watching all the previews and you had people picking up like electrified sticks and stuff. Does the game kind of have that like weird mentality when it comes to loot?
No.
Okay.
It's pretty there are obvious classes of weapons. There are swords, there are staffs, there are axes, there are hammers, there are whatever. The better weapons in the game though tend to be unique.
Okay.
There are a couple of points in the game where you can do a quest to put an enchantment on a weapon, and this is like once or twice. And that will improve any weapon of your choice, but there was one point where I got this great two-handed sword, but it was technically unique. Supposed to be it's Isildur's, not Isildur's Bane. That's the name of the ring. I forget what the name of it was.
Underreal.
What?
Underreal.
I don't know.
Oh, probably not.
I don't know, but it was somebody's Bane because I don't know. They don't like that sword because it killed them or whatever.
Did John just out himself as a little bit of a Lord of the Rings nerd? Because you kind of knew some lore right there.
I said Underreal, and he didn't even know what it was.
I really am not a big. I've read the books. I've watched the movies. I don't know much more beyond that.
Overrated. Sorry.
But Isildur's Bane, I know, is the name of the ring.
Okay.
But
That's interesting. Can you get the ring?
No.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome. Dude, you could get like instant crits every time with the ring.
I want to play a game where I can kill Frodo and take the ring.
No, that's actually one thing I want to touch on is this game does a very good job at staying away, for the most part, from the core characters. You meet Frodo once, and that's when you're in Rivendell at the same time that he is, and he's about to go on his quest. For the great majority of the game, you are dealing with characters that are unique to this game, and that's why it's kind of functional. If anyone played 2004's Lord of the Rings: The Third Age was really like, you know what, there's this group of kind of half-assed heroes that are chasing around the Fellowship. And, hey, do you remember when Gandalf fought the Balrog? Well, these guys were here, too. None of that happens.
Yeah, wasn't that the final... It was like a Final Fantasy X Lord of the Rings game?
Yes, they literally took just about every element of Final Fantasy X and dropped in Lord of the Rings elements and went with it.
I thought that was a joke. Like, in an old EGM, they had, like, the Lord of the Rings kart racing game as their big April Fools. I thought that was the April Fool's joke. I was like, oh, no one's going to be that dumb to make something. Really?
Well, it was produced by Steve Gray, who actually used to work for Square. He was the producer on the first Parasite Eve game.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Wow.
So you went from making something really original to ripping off Final Fantasy.
Well, to be fair, he was the American producer on the game, so he was working with the dev studio in Honolulu, whereas it was actually developed in Japan.
See, we're talking about JRPGs. Everybody calm down. Metal Gear Solid.
No, but I have to say, you know, Lord of the Rings: War in the North is far from the best game that I've ever played. I've never said, you know, I like hack and slashes when they're fun, but they're not my favorite. Even for people like Rob who love hack and slash games, this is not going to be their favorite. But it's still 15 to 20 hours for a single playthrough that's good, solid fun. I mean, there's loot there. There's, you know, skill ups. The combat is fun. There are some bugs graphically. There were points where I couldn't hit enemies until one of my allies hit them for whatever reason. And there were lots of little tiny bugs, but nothing that greatly affected my gameplay.
Cool. So you recommend it for people that are looking for a good hack and slash? Yeah,
if you like hack and slash games and you want to play one, you know, it's when we're recording this, it's another week until Skyrim is out. You know what? I'm done.
All right, but in all seriousness, would you take this over Dead Island?
Yeah, I would. You know what? Here's the thing. There's a great deal more content in Dead Island, but I enjoyed actually fighting things more in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Did you see that they? I don't know if it's in news, but they
Dead World.
Yeah, Dead World.
Yes, I saw that.
Well, I mean, I think they. Let's see what they do.
You know what? Dead Island sold over 1 million copies. You know,
on a trailer.
It did incredibly well for you know, Deep Silver and for Techland. So, you know what? More power to them. If they actually can make a game that is less buggy and, you know, they put in the right elements, you know what? Dead Island really had the core of it could have been good.
I just really hope that the studio that made that CG film got at least 33% of the profits. Seriously, because nobody was caring about that game until that trailer came out. And that shows the amazing marketing that a game can have. And, you know, I know we're going to say it in news, and I'm not just saying it because I really like the game, but, like, the fact that Dark Souls sold 1.5 million. No. Shut. It's one. It sold 1.5 million. That was actually really good. It
I
sold
enjoyed her liver with a nice Chianti and a side of fava beans.
It sold 1.5 million units without, a big commercial campaign, without a big, trailer to go with it. And I think that's really impressive. But like Dead Island, that trailer got everybody talking. It got everybody interested. And again, I hope that studio got a lot of money for that. And they can fund another project and maybe fix some bugs.
Yeah.
Boogs.
Okay, who's gonna talk?
Yeah.
I'll start it.
All right.
I'm just going to come out with a bold statement, and we'll start from there. Tides of Destiny just might be my biggest disappointment this year.
Ooh.
And
God.
I'll tell you why. I really liked Rune Factory 3, and I'm a huge fan of Rune Factory Frontier, and we haven't had a console Rune Factory since Frontier because that was the first time they went there. And I thought it was going to be better than Frontier. And, the problem with Tides of Destiny, it had excellent ideas like, the farming, having different islands for each season so you can grow crops year round, having the giant battles, but giant battles are really not as fun as you would think they would be. Dungeons, pretty generic, but that's always kind of been there, but I don't know. And the combat, I hate the combat, and that's like half of the game. And I keep saying every year when I review the Rune Factory series is that they've got to improve the combat. And while people say it's smoother this time around, there's so many bugs with it that I have a hard time playing it. I know Derek, I was telling Derek that I have loved the cast every Rune Factory game because there's always this quirk to them. And this cast just seems very weak. They're not awful. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not kind of the last two games in the series were better than it. So I think with me, I always want games to improve on what they did before, and everything in Tides just seems like a step back.
Oh.
A lot of it just seems so flat. Like the cast, especially, they always try to have characters that are really eccentric, and like you're looking for your marriage candidates, and you want them to be really. You're choosing them because each one is like a super extreme personality, and you either love them or hate them. But everybody in this game is just like bland, or their quirks are uninteresting. Like, and with the marriage candidates especially, there's so many choices for the male character and almost none for the female. And
well, let's get on to the female. So they advertised this as the first time you can play as a female character, and I mean they let it be known that you were going to have to figure out why they were sharing a body before you could play as her. So essentially you can't even play as her till you finish the main storyline, which I am 50 hours in the game and I am not done with the main storyline now. So do you get where it's kind of disappointing? Beyond that, Sonja is one of the most annoying characters I have dealt with.
She's so bad.
She almost hits on, we all know that I'm not a big fan of Saki from Art and Elko 3. She's almost on that level because they took her and just made her super annoying. Like every time you're trying, every time you walk into the store, are you going to buy something if you're staying up late? You better
what a
get
nice
to bed.
aroma.
It's like she's your freaking mother. Like it's so annoying.
It's already 6.
She is kind of a bee. I can't.
UBS about to get effed in the bee.
She's like that nag. She's like that nag that just doesn't want to.
What the hell was that?
That was a line from
Scott Pilgrim.
Pilgrim, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's terrible and annoying and airheaded and.
So can I? With this particular game, is this one? Because I played I can't even remember which one it was. It was so long ago, like the first Rune Factory. And I remember the combat. It was kind of like, it felt like Harvest Moon, but they dropped in some really basic combat just to change it up. And I thought it was pretty cool. It wasn't like amazing, but I enjoyed it.
It added something to the Harvest Moon element. Yeah.
Yeah. But you got the impression that combat was just, another facet of this game and not something they were focusing on. Is the problem that they're still treating combat like just like an afterthought, even though it's obviously the big claim to fame for Rune Factory, it seems like, is that it's, Harvest Moon with combat?
Well, it's like they tried to make combat the focus, but they did a really bad job of it. Like, there's so much less focus on your actual farming, because like Kim said, you have the different islands that you make your crops on, but instead of actually picking what to grow, you use a spirit wand where you sow seeds basically, and then depending on what monsters you have on that island, the crops will develop based on that.
And you have to feed your monsters cookies or they're not gonna. And you need to exploit one area of the game. If you're not exploiting, like, you could ignore farming entirely, but then you have to focus on something like fishing, because money's not going to come to you quickly in this game until you exploit a certain system.
So there's no excitement to the farming or the fishing really, because it's so basic. And then it's
farming,
like, okay.
For me, started off very basic, and as I went on in the game, I kind of opened up a lot of the farming, and it's actually been a lot more fun than it was, because then I got, all 4 of the islands and everything. But I would say in the beginning, like, everything seemed like it was very, straightforward for the new player. But then all of a sudden there's like and that's what the problem is with combat, is it's so basic that they need to take something and add a dodge button or a block button, because all you're basically doing is tapping the same button over and over. Going through
there's no variance to the moves. You're just you have different weapons, but each weapon has the exact same attack pattern.
Yeah, or you could put a root ability on it, but it doesn't make that big of a difference. So
it seems like if they're gonna. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, I had a chance to play a little bit of it, and it's frustrating when the closest thing that you have to dodge is if you jump while you're in the middle of an attack sequence, you go a little bit further. Like, it's incredibly frustrating that the combat is so simplistic, and it's incredibly pattern based too. Like, patterns are nice and they're good for bosses, but having things be strictly based on patterns, and if you step any little tiny bit outside that pattern, you get totally destroyed. That's just not fun.
Well, not to mention,
the bosses are awful in this game. Like,
everything has too much HP. All the enemies and all the bosses have too much HP. You're just mashing your attacks at them over and over, and there's no weight to your strikes. You feel like you're basically swinging around paper swords. At least I did.
And you have to bring in like 30 potions into every battle just to survive, because the bosses are so much. And here's the other thing. I tried leveling up to see if it makes a difference. Leveling up has no factor in whether or not you're going to succeed. It's all, can you memorize a pattern? Can you stick to a pattern for about 25 minutes into a boss battle? Because that's about how long they take. And if you step outside that, are like me, like, I'll start to lose focus because I get antsy at the end of the battle, and then you die if the sliver of life left, and then you're like, if I was only patient. So it's a game that requires a lot of patience. Combat is not fun. The dungeons need to have a little extra spice or something, because they're very generic. They're very much just hit this, like, because basically the strategy in Rune Factory is there's these little balls, and you hit them because they'll keep spouting more enemies, like, if you don't. So you kill those first, and then you go and you have to attack all the enemies. But it gets very, very humdrum after a while, because it's just all the same. Like, there's nothing that makes the combat. Like, the combat is really an issue. And even more, you can bring monsters into battle, but here's the problem. I brought my monsters in, and they kept getting stuck in the environment and wouldn't follow me. Luckily, there's a whistle to bring them straight to you, but I shouldn't even have to use that. Like, they should be following me as I walk. And the monsters are not, that's like really poor AI. Like, they kind of just stand there and get hit anyways. They don't really help you out as much as they should. Monsters could be essentially useless, where you don't even need to bring them into battle, because they can sometimes. The only reason why I bring them into battle is because it takes some of the focus when you're in a boss off of you, and they'll attack and kill off your monsters first.
At first, I didn't even realize that you could bring monsters with you, because you could click on them and say, bring it with you, but I didn't really understand what they meant. I thought it just meant, like, take it to the island with you, which seemed pointless. Yeah, exactly. But, and then you have to re-add them into your party every time you go to a dungeon, which is annoying, and I just stopped doing it.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I know one of my friends was playing, and she didn't do anything with monsters, because they just, they didn't have any benefit for her. Like I said, for me, I was trying to use all the systems possible to see how they stacked up. And, monsters have always been pretty useless in the series. So they either need to refine that. I know in Rune Factory 3, they had it so you could bring villagers in to battle with you. And the same thing happened that was happening with monsters, where the villagers just aren't very smart for AI, and they were dying off really quickly. They weren't really helping. And they took the villagers out of this one, but they kept the monsters, but didn't fix the whole monster system enough so it mattered.
Right.
So
So the combat's pretty boring, and we've established that.
it can
So
be
let's move
pretty
on
frustrating
to.
too. Yeah.
What frustrates me the most about the combat is that they've made the combat a bigger focus in this one, but they didn't make it any better.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, we're going to have this bit that is a bigger focus. We want players to be more engaged. We want it to be more like a traditional JRPG, and they don't make it any better. You know what? It's fine if something is bad when it's a mini game or it's not a focus. It's something that you can ignore, but you can't ignore it here, and it sucks.
It's just boring, really. So the exploration, I thought, okay, so the combat isn't that good, but maybe exploring will be fun, and I get to chart the ocean, and I get to ride on a big golem, and it's awesome. Not really. You could, I mean, it would be a lot more fun if your golem didn't have like the worst stamina ever. You can get through a couple squares of the map before your golem is like, I can't go any further. And then you have to
It
wait till
gets
the next
better
day.
as you go on, but the problem with it is too, like in the beginning, your Ymir isn't powered up enough, so he can't step through like a stream. You have to go around it, which takes off RP, or this water's too deep for him to go. And as you go on in the game, he gets upgrades that allow that to not be an issue. But in the beginning, it's really frustrating. On top of that, the battles that he has in the sea are freaking awful.
There's one. Well, actually, there's two attacks. You could punch or you could throw a rock, which is incredibly ineffective.
Yeah.
It's not super effective.
They're clunky. It's
not
clunky
super-
battles
Does
just
not do
trying
massive
to
damage?
survive.
Nope. And if there was a crab and I flipped it over, I bet I wouldn't be able to attack its weak point for maximum damage.
No, you can't. I've tried that.
What a shame.
So
Genji, this is not.
so we're saying that this is a little bit of a disappointment.
This is a big disappointment. I
Yeah.
mean, they were doing really good. Even festivals, which were so good in Rune Factory 3, have gone back to just being meh. Like there's good ideas for the festivals, they're just really boring. And then on festival days, you can't take on requests, and requests are kind of give you something to do each day if you can't go and explore. But then
And requests are
requests
what
end up
move you
repeating
through the game
themselves.
anyway,
Hmm. So
because you're trying to get through the different shrines. There's 4 shrines, at least as far as I know. And to get to each one, you have to take a request from a villager to find the key on another island or whatever. So if you're not taking those requests, you can't progress. And the festival days are supposed to be a fun break, but I think I experienced 2, like a lantern festival.
These
where you did
festivals are
nothing.
supposed to be fun, and I am not having fun.
I
well,
know,
there's
damn
ones
it.
where I had to like
We're
beat
sorry,
up
but your
bunch of
print- your
enemies,
key is
which
in
was
another
fun,
shrine.
or like these fake wooden things rather. And then there was one that was a fashion show where they judged you based on your style for what you could craft. What was the other good one? There's a cooking contest one that I actually won. Like they're good ideas, but here's the other thing: crafting, fishing, cooking all have the same system in place. They're based on your level. There is a bar, and there's a little sliver of blue in the bar, and if you hit in there as it's going back and forth, you successfully craft the item, or you catch a fish or whatever. The problem with that is that it's used for 3 different systems in the game. So then you start to get tired of trying to time when you have to press a button for every single system. Like if they would have done one which was like press, X square in this in like a certain sequence, like it would have been a break from just trying to get a bar where it needs to be.
Yeah, and if you fail, you lose your items, which
you don't lose
you're
your
supposed to
you don't lose
assess the risk.
you don't lose anything for crafting, but
You
you
don't?
lose for fishing if you don't do it. You don't catch a fish, obviously. And cooking, you get a failed dish, which cooking's really annoying because with a failed dish, like you can't.
Does everyone die of salmonella?
No,
You
you
fail
just can't sell it.
If you fail in the game, you fail for real.
You essentially wasted all the items that you brought into it. Like I had many times where I would miss, so then I just restart my game. I'd always save before I try to make the dish, and then if I didn't, I'd reload. But
That's what I meant though. Like you if you cook something and you put the ingredients in and you fail, then you essentially lost those ingredients and you're stuck with nothing.
You
Yeah.
have given everyone food poisoning. I hope you feel good about yourself.
You have died of dysentery.
The war in the north is the war against food poisoning.
So we're saying it sucks, huh?
I wouldn't say it sucks, but
Here's the
it's
thing.
definitely like average or below average, which is way disappointing. And I thought it was going to be a lot better than that.
Yeah, I think fans are gonna still enjoy it. Is it going to be as much as they enjoyed the last two games in the series? I don't think so, but will they like allow it because they want to be playing a JRPG right now and they want to be playing a Rune Factory game? Yes, they're gonna want to play it, but it's a lot of wasted potential. It needs a lot of refining. This one really, for me, even playing through it, I wanted to excuse a lot of the missteps because I love the series. And then as I kept going on and on, I was like, you know what? Yesterday I threw my controller twice because of bad combat mechanics. I've never done that ever in a game. And anybody who's going into this new and goes into combat is going to get their ass kicked, and they're going to hate it because it's really like all about memorizing a pattern and keeping on that pattern for, minutes on end. So, even with the villagers, which I was looking forward to, it's like, no, I was looking forward to playing as a girl, and I hate the girl, and I don't even want to pursue marrying one of her candidates. I rather just play as Aiden and marry one of the girls for him because at least he's got more selection and he's not as annoying as she is. So
They're both pretty annoying, though, I have to say.
yeah, I think Aiden edges out as not being as annoying as she is, which is why I think I'm going down her route. But they're both pretty.
It's totally unrealistic because girls have such a better selection in real life.
Yeah, seriously, I like how Kim is just basically saying that these guys aren't good enough for her. Or these girls aren't good enough for her. Whatever. This just got really messed up.
One thing that I actually just came to the realization of is this is a game that Rob would love. It's got brutally difficult combat, and it's very pattern-based.
Actually, there's a game like that I really enjoy.
Yeah, what game is that?
What game is it?
It's called Dark Souls.
Oh my god, we've never talked about this game.
It's kind of like a modern Castlevania, only if they didn't ruin it every time. Yeah.
Hey, did you get to this boss in the game?
Well, yeah, I did actually. Wait, which one?
Oh.
See, and Dark Souls has a frustration that's actually like gratifying when you finally beat a boss. This is just, it's not even, it's like, can I stay on a pattern?
Yeah, I've never smack talked a game before until Dark Souls and Demon Souls, where I was just like, yeah, get some.
Yeah, I mean, I beat the boss and I don't feel accomplished at all. I feel like, well, this just took a lot of time and effort that really it shouldn't have, because if they would put a block or a dodge, and Rob's going to yell at me because I want them to adopt a battle system that's more smooth and refined like Kingdom Hearts, which I know there's flaws there. I know, Rob, but if you know how to exploit if you can exploit dodge, if you can learn how to, block at the right times, you're fine. This has none of that, and it's basically, try to stay on a pattern and learn what the boss is going to do and attack when he's vulnerable and all that stuff. But it's just, I don't know, it just needs a little more work.
So basically, just go play Rune Factory 3 again. Or Xenoblade.
Or
everybody should just go play Xenoblade.
Frontier had faults with the Rooney system, but that one was actually a lot more enjoyable. Had a better cast, like this. Or go play Animal Parade. I really liked Animal Parade.
Animal Parade's awesome. I love Animal Parade.
Animals. They're so much fun.
They're so fun. You can hug them.
I hate animals.
But you know what?
You have no soul.
Weird,
you have the dark soul.
It's true.
Enough Dark Souls. Hey, I'm getting on a JRPG tangent here.
I like JRPGs.
Well, so what's the
No, I'm getting on a good thing where, like, I have been trying, like, I get excited when new JRPGs come out, and I was excited about Tides of Destiny because I liked Frontier, and I go to play it, and they're really disappointing this generation. I feel like I'm never going to have that attachment to JRPGs like I did in the PS2 era. I just feel like what I'm getting is not that good.
Well, what is the next big JRPG that we're all excited about? Is it Final Fantasy 13 too?
I think that it is.
And Tales of Graces.
Tales of Graces.
Tales of Innocence are, oh yeah.
Ni no Kuni.
A Ni no Kuni, yes. Most def.
I mean, I really want a good JRPG right now. I keep saying it on the show. I really want to have a good JRPG, and I'm just sitting here, waiting.
Getting ready to play Xenoblade.
Well, I mean,
Xenoblade is amazing.
Or you could go back and finish playing Shadow Hearts.
Oh, that is true. I really need to finish that game.
Yeah,
I got distracted by this. Steven, have I told you about this game called Dark Souls?
Really?
Yeah, it is so awesome.
Crazy. I'm playing that.
Okay. All right. Did we break
I'm not
Skype?
hearing anything.
Did we break Skype?
No, we broke their brains, I think.
I think John's rage broke Skype. He got so angry.
No, but like, what is it that like they just like? I mean, there are good ones on the DS, but I'm talking like console JRPG. I want a good one.
I think my thing with it is back in the day there were more limits to technology, so I felt like you had to do creative things in games, like random battles and stuff, in order to approximate an experience. But now that there's no limitation, they're still working as though they have those limitations, and you get all these artificial systems and weird little just quirks in so many of the JRPGs that come out, as opposed to. And I'm not saying I have the answer to what will make a great JRPG, because you can still make a classically styled one that's a lot of fun, but it's not necessarily innovation. It's just a desire to make a game that isn't about tedium. It's about having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I
think that's just it. I want to have fun again when I play them, and the same thing happened to me with Arch Enemy 3.
The what's interesting is that I find that because they no longer have these artificial systems and they no longer require random encounters, that's why we're seeing many more hybrid RPGs. Because game developers now can give RPG-esque story in a non-RPG way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened with Catherine.
I still want to play that.
Catherine was awesome for its dialogue and its story sequences. Like, I hated the puzzle gameplay, but they were able to still deliver. Like, that's something that the story and dialogue was something that I really play my JRPGs for. I really liked. And
see, I had a hard time with Catherine because I didn't just get pissed off at the puzzle sections. I was very furious at the storytelling, because I think for one thing, the story.
Furious George.
Yes, I was furious George. No, the story really goes to hell in like the last.
The story gets
nights.
a little crazy as you go on. I'm not going to lie that all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, like psychopath right all the way through. But
it wasn't just that. It was also just the fact that it felt like I was watching a really long anime, which is kind of cool, but nothing was happening for about the first 3/4 of it.
See, that's
so it was like watching an anime.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, right about that.
Unless that anime is Eureka 7, in which case awesome things are happening the whole time.
So, well, are we ready to go on to news as the disappointment washes over us and we just feel terrible about ourselves?
What an
we
appropriate
have hope
pun.
that a few new JRPGs are gonna maybe get there. The ones that we listed, we'll see.
Their uppance will come.
The uppance. And now we move on to the news section where young Steven tells us about video game news. Please.
Okay, well,
Rob's favorite.
I got a little bit of stuff pulled up here. There's a lot of re-releases and director's cuts we're talking about. Well, for starters, pretty recent. Heavy Rain's getting a director's cut.
Kill me.
Which is great if you have good.
But isn't it not really a quote-unquote director's cut?
It's basically just a Game of the Year edition, although it comes with a soundtrack, which is cool. Actually, all right. Well, here it ships with the Taxidermist DLC, which was decent-ish, a 16-track soundtrack, PS Move support, making of videos, 3 PS3 dynamic themes, concept art, and some trailers.
So pretty much is just a re-release.
Yeah, it's pretty much not really a director's cut. Like, there's no added scenes or anything, right? They didn't add anything extra.
It doesn't seem to be. Basically, it's just a Game of the Year edition. It comes with a bunch of stuff. This is all stuff that's accessible now, but I mean, the benefit is that it's only running for $30. So I mean, you're getting DLC, and so if you
things, man, and some stuff.
If you think you might enjoy Heavy Rain, and you haven't played it yet, which it's been a while, so I don't know. But
Rob's editor's choice.
Those of us that have good taste, can enjoy a new version of Heavy Rain, and those of us with bad taste can ignore it.
I'm happy Heavy Rain exists. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's good for farms.
I'm happy that it exists. No, I'm never going to be pissed off at a developer trying new things.
You're always mad at David Cage.
I'm always mad at David Cage because I'm sorry. I think I still want to know how Madison got out of that burning apartment. I still want to know.
The refrigerator fell into the street.
It didn't, though.
It's better than a nuke hitting the refrigerator and her not becoming liquefied.
John. No. John and I talked about this on the last podcast. No, that didn't happen.
Yes, it did. You know what? I don't want to hear it, Rob. I don't want to hear it.
Let's go on.
Okay. Dark Souls Heavy Rain. This is too much.
All
Dark
right.
Souls.
Dark Souls. That's a really awesome game.
All right.
Oh my god.
On.
You all knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good news for people who like really awesome RPGs. More Square Enix games are coming to the PS1 Classics collection.
But it's the bad versions of them.
Unfortunately, it's the not so awesome versions. We have Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy VI, and Final Fantasy V, which
How can you screw
Six-
Chrono Cross?
6 and 5 are the
Chrono Cross is
PS1
fine.
Classics versions that have like the super long load time. Well, actually, I don't think 5 had the super long load times, but 6 did. That's actually the only version of 6 I've ever beaten is the PS1 version, so that's interesting. And it's going to run for probably the same price as it usually does, because it's the winter of RPGs, which is, I'm guessing, a throwback to when Chrono Cross was released. They had the summer of RPGs.
Yeah.
Man, I love that promotion. I had the
Oh,
bag and everything.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
I love that promotion because it gave Chrono Cross, which is like, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, one of the best games ever, and
I'm
better
right
than
there
Chrono
with
Trigger.
Chrono
Whoa,
Cross on
whoa
PS.
there.
Yeah, I'm going there.
It-
Chrono
it-
Cross is incredible.
Whoa.
It is great.
Yeah.
And it comes out on PSN Tuesday. Like, by the time you listen to this, it will be out. I didn't
Yeah.
realize so soon.
We all
Yeah.
agree Chrono Cross is an absolutely fantastic game. I mean, we need to have a Chrono Cross Chrono Trigger
Kimberly was just
podcast.
going, whoa, whoa. I don't know if she agrees.
Yeah, what's wrong with the game? It's Final Fantasy VIII's combat system, only it
Oh.
works.
Boy.
No, it's not.
Well, I mean, in terms of like junctioning spells, but also it's a combination of Xenogears and Final Fantasy VIII.
I was going to say it's a combination of the most awesome thing in the universe and the most awesome soundtrack in the universe, but that works
You know
too.
what? I just want to go put Fungi and Potion.
Fun guy.
You know what? I'm gonna download it, I think, and replay it, and I'll see how I feel. And then
It
we can
has
have a
problems.
podcast on it, and I'll play, and we can compare. I think I need to have, because I played, the DS of Chrono Trigger. I think I need that, recent comparison so I can see.
It's
It,
not
do- it
perfect.
does have problems. Like, I mean, it ends at some point, and I mean, you'll eventually run out of awesome endings to get. And characters
Oh,
to have
I
in your
played
party,
it way
so-
back. It's not so fresh in my mind anymore. I want to see if I'm clouded by nostalgia for Chrono Trigger or what's going on here. So I will actually download it. And
I would say the bigger problem is the whole like fact that you're running around with a space alien, a voodoo doll, and a giant mushroom.
It's a totally normal JRPG.
Normally
Cass. What are you
that's-
talking about?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty normal for a JRPG. Yeah.
Normally that's a magical adventure through awesome, but yeah,
Dude, Fungi is awesome. All of his moves are awesome.
it's such
All
a.
right, you know what?
I'm so
I'm gonna,
happy
fr-
it
I'm gonna
exists.
start frothing at the mouth if we keep talking about Chrono Trigger. I'm gonna have to move on to something else. But yes, everybody, you can play it on your PSP and the PS3. Go buy it. Or maybe they'll make a new one.
That's what I'm excited about, is that I own the PS1 version of Chrono Cross, and it's sitting right over there. I can see it. I really just want this on PSN so I can play it on the PSP.
Correct, Mundo.
cool,
Yep.
cool.
Moving on, we have another re-release, the Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition, which is, again, basically the Game of the Year edition. It comes with tons of DLC. It comes with Dead Money, Honest Hearts, Old War Blues, Lonesome Road, and, of course, the original New Vegas, and the patch that made the game not broken. It also comes with Courier Stash and Gunrunner's Arsenal, which I'm actually not familiar with.
So those are the two tiny DLCs. Those have like weapons and crap in them, and a couple
Are
of quests.
they
They're like
charging
horse
full
armor.
price?
Okay.
Sorry?
Are they going to charge full price for this, or is this going to be like $29.99?
No, it's going to be $50, which honestly, at this point, you can get Fallout New Vegas for $20, and you can get the two DLCs that are worth anything for $10 each. I was not a big fan of Dead Money at all, and Honest Hearts is kind of take it or leave it.
Mhm.
So it's really up to you whether or not you want to get this, or you'd rather just buy, the 360 version or the PS3 version and a $20, PlayStation Network or Xbox Live card.
What was the really good DLC? I forget. What was it?
Old World
Lonesome
Blues.
Road.
Look, I liked Old World Blues a lot more.
That
than
was
I
the one. That was the one. Okay.
That was the one with the toaster, right?
Yes,
John's
Excellent,
favorite.
Excellent.
That was
Excellent.
the
the one
toaster
with the
is the
toast.
best character in that game.
But that comes out on February 7th, 2012 for, the usual consoles. It
They're
actually
missing
has
the holiday season for that. That's
Yeah, that was what really surprised me.
Yeah,
He's absolutely
did.
right there.
and it actually has not yet been priced officially, it looks like.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe I was wrong. I heard 50, but I don't
So,
know. That wasn't in
you
the
know-
official press release.
I'm willing to bet it'll be something like 30 because that'd be a pretty good way to get people buying it, especially now that the game is, patched
It
up.
would be good. I don't think they're going to do it for 30 though. If it's 30, I'd get it, but I don't think.
If it's at 30, that's worth that because you get the two DLCs that are more expensive.
Excellent. Okay, so Sorry. Next, Wakfu has a release date. That's the MMO from Ankama Games, and I think published by Square Enix. I think actually, and I admit I'm not terribly familiar with the game, but it's been finally released for a full non-beta launch in February 2012, and it's going to be. I believe it's free to play, but there's also a monthly subscription, and yeah, so there's that. Anyone,
I know that someone played it for RPG Fan. I think it was Bob. That he enjoyed it. It's done by French developer Ankama. They did Dofus.
Which actually we have some soundtrack reviews coming out for pretty soon.
That's a good section, that soundtrack section.
That is a good section, actually. I like that section. The people in that section are pretty rad.
Pimp your wares elsewhere, boys.
Oh.
Not on my damn show.
Says the guy talking about
How many
game
accents
that shall not be
is
named.
Rob going to try on
A
this
game that shall not be
podcast?
named.
Wait, what game is that?
Guys, it got Game of the Month. Let's just leave it where,
It's gonna get Game of the Year when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
boy, Game of the Year, we're going to be fighting a lot.
Oh yeah.
oh snap.
Okay. Well, next up, it's a little bit older, but Dungeon Siege 3's first and maybe not only DLC is available as of October 25th. It seems like it's a pretty substantial DLC too, because it raises the level cap, gives you a whole new area to explore, some new attacks and skills.
How'd that game sell?
Raises the level cap.
I feel like people forgot about that game,
Yeah, it was
if you-
perfectly competent. It was perfectly
but it was forgettable, wasn't it?
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than Rob, but it was definitely.
But you had a friend to play it with, and you weren't trying to play it on PC, where it's kind of hard to have someone sit at a keyboard with you and play the damn game.
It seems like Obsidian's goal is to release DLC for their games way after they've been forgotten. And if you think about it, we're still talking about New Vegas now, and that came out
Last
forever
year.
Forever and a day ago. So, if they do that with Dungeon Siege, that's a pretty good way to keep the game at least being talked about. And we will have a review of that DLC fairly soon.
Yay.
But that it raises the level cap to 35, new abilities, new enemies, new areas. You can respec your characters. And interestingly, there's some sort of enchanting system now, so you can basically trick out your weapons and armor, which sounds totally cool to me.
Is it like Pimp My Ride but for weapons?
Pimp my weapons,
Sweet.
transmute my weapons.
Yo, dog, I heard you like fighting, so we could put weapons in your weapons so you can
So you
fight
can-
when you fight.
Yeah.
What the?
Clearly,
exhibit
Rob
joke.
is not up and up on memes from 3 years ago.
I'm
It's still an
sorry.
awesome meme. Yo, dog, I heard you like Facebook.
Dude,
so
I
you
was
put
in
Facebook
graduate
in your
school.
Facebook, so you could Facebook while you Facebook.
I was in grad school, dude. I had no life. It's not a whole lot different from now, I know, but still.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
Last bit of news I have, a little older, but Square Enix has been talking a lot about the follow-up to Lord of Apocalypse, which was basically their take on Monster Hunter.
No, Lord of
I'm sorry. Lord of Arcana was the original. Lord of Apocalypse is the new one, which it seems like they're making quite a few changes to it. Most notably, they're trying to make it a little more fast-paced and a little more fluid.
which it needed.
Yeah, you actually played that, didn't you, John?
Yeah, it was not bad. It was just kind of there.
It didn't offend him.
Yeah. It was unspectacular, but somewhat entertaining.
All right.
Well, that's about all I got for
There's
today.
not much to say really.
Yeah, it's really this is kind of like Monster Hunter.
But it has a lot of, if I recall, it had a lot of different artists, like popular Square Enix artists and a couple of composers doing the music. So that,
But the game still looked awful. So
I remember when I played that back at the Tokyo Game Show. That was so long ago.
yes,
Memories.
Memories.
I'm not going to be allowed to do news again. I know.
Yeah.
No, you did a good job.
Hey, you failed.
You did fine. Why are you doing it anyway though? I usually do that.
we need to give Steven something to do.
We're edging you out of something to do. Well, all right, never mind.
You were gonna make a Dark Souls joke.
Yes, he was.
I don't want to make Kim angry.
So do we have any other news to talk about?
Oh, Serious Sam, the random encounter is out.
Can we get
Oh,
them for
man.
copyright?
Oh my god,
infringement?
copyright.
What?
They took our name.
Random encounter.
They took our
podcast.
jobs.
They took them nerves.
Apparently, Rob is up on South Park memes from quite a few years ago.
They took them nerves. Bro.
Bro, hey, bro.
Hey, bro.
Hey,
What's
bro.
up, bro?
Hey, bro. Hey, bro. Did you play Dark Souls?
I think we're done.
I think we've gotten a little silly. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us on this podcast. We obviously have a lot of Sky stuff to talk about in the month of November. We have Skyrim and Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So looking forward to playing those 2 games. Anything else coming out of significant value? I can't think of anything else.
No, and I should have a Tides review coming soon where they will find the full verdict on
The
the
full
game.
pain and blood and whatnot.
Kim threw her penis.
Well, what?
Same time.
Yo, dog, I heard you like functions, so we put a function in your function so you can derive what you derive. John, you ruined me.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to Random Encounter. For myself, for Steven, the man of many giggles, for John, for Kim, and for Derek, thank you very much for listening. Make sure to subscribe to the RSS feed or through iTunes and send us email. We love to get email. We love email. We'd like to hear from you guys.
Hey, I'm Nathan Drake.
Metal Gear Solid.
Do you have a taste for an adventurous footlong?
Oh my god!